Welcome to Nice and Blunt. My name is Adam Riancho, and here we are on Underdog. It's time for a mock draft. It looks like we're still waiting for one more person, so if you'd like to join us, then go ahead. But for the sake of this video, for the sake of this exercise, I'm not going to be taking the players that I want the most. The point of this video is to go against my typical draft strategy, go against my typical logic, and go with players that I really don't believe in. So maybe you are going to think that these are good picks, but I'm just going to stick with my gut and tell you what I firmly believe. But basically, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I normally do. So now this draft is full, and what pick did we get? We got the 12th pick. That's kind of interesting, but basically, here we are. And if you'd like to sign up for Underdog, you can use my code Nice and Blunt. Get a $100 deposit matched on your first deposit, and that's some nice bonus cash to play with. But other than that, we can remove that from the video. There it is, gone. And we're waiting for this draft to kick in. At the 12th spot, we've got a lot of time to maybe plan ahead. But I'm not necessarily going to go against the position that I want to draft in that round, but I'm going to take a player that I just don't think is going to pay off in terms of what they actually provide. So we're going against our gut in this draft, and we're trying to change it up, basically. So I'm basically going with who I think will bust the most at that value. But with pick 12, we may have to take some big reaches. It's going to be a strategy that I really don't like. The problem in round 1, though, is like, who are you getting that's like a bad player? You know what I mean? Like, it's mainly some really reliable picks. So this isn't the best spot for it. But it's really going to come into play as we move through this draft and as the rounds go by. Thankfully, I'm at the end where it's like normal to make some big reaches, but I'm going to tell you who I think is the worst pick, essentially, in that draft, in that round, when I get to the odd, I guess the even-numbered picks here. When it's like round 2, round 4, I really got to reach. Because at the end, it really sucks. Like, this is kind of a good spot to be in for this anti-mock draft. Like, number 12 is really difficult to get an advantage with, and it kind of plays into my hand a little bit in terms of like what I expect to come from the end of this draft. I really don't think I'm going to win this one. Maybe I'm going to be shocked. Maybe I'm actually going to like this team. It's possible that I'm wrong, and there's a lot of players that actually I come out of this draft feeling very differently about, but I highly doubt that is actually going to happen. But let's just take a look at this draft so far. We have Justin Jefferson, Ja'Marr Chase, Tyreek Hill, CMC, Bijan Robinson, Cooper Kupp, Eckler, and Travis Kelce. I think Eckler's starting to get some proper credit. I think at number 7, that is definitely more of an appropriate value for him. I think he's just as valuable as CMC, and you know a little bit more of what you're getting than Bijan Robinson. But here we are, and with the news of Jimmy Garoppolo maybe missing the season, maybe getting cut, at the very least he's not in proper shape right now, and he had to go through foot surgery. Davante Adams may be getting Brian Hoyer as his quarterback this season, and that's a big concern right now. So I am going to go with Davante Adams right now. I think he's a bit more of a bust candidate in the first round, and that's definitely a player I'm not excited about right now. But a team that I just really don't trust would be Dallas. And CeeDee Lamb, I don't think is like... For a long time, I wasn't super into it. But, no, I need to make a big reach. And I don't think Devontae Smith is worth that second round ADP. I really don't think it's going to pay off. So we're going to reach here. And this is something I would never really do. I haven't done it a single time in round 2. If he falls to me in round 3, I'm willing to take it. But of all the players I think are going in the second round, I don't think Devontae Smith is going to work out. Maybe A.J. Brown's not going to catch as many touchdowns as he did last year, But Devontae Smith really only came alive at the end of the season. Let's take a look at his game log last year. It was pretty up and down for a while. Like, first game of the season, not a single yard, not a single catch. Game 3 was really good, but followed that up with a dud, 3 for 17, then 10 for 87. But after that, it was a long time until he found 10-plus targets. Not again until week 15. There were some rough games where, like, 5 for 44. Yes, he caught a touchdown, so I guess he got bailed out. But then 5 for 23, 2 for 22, 4 for 50, 5 for 64 touchdown. The touchdowns really started to bail him out. At the end of the season, he was coming in really clutch, and there were some deep passes that really hit for him in the playoffs that definitely boosted up his stats. So I feel like there was some recency bias a little bit with Devontae Smith because he really played excellent at the end of the season, but there were some dud games, and it's not like Dallas Goedert didn't miss some time at the end of last year. I think that also played into his hand a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, but at the very least, taking him at pick 13 is too high, and definitely a bust at this price point. But I think just a bust generally in round 2. I think there's a massive tier break once you get to Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, T. Higgins. Those are the last players I'm like really, really interested in round 2. But Devontae Smith, I think, is really more of a third-round pick, and there's no very, very slim chance that he actually pays off for this ADP. You need A.J. Brown to go down with injury in order for that to pay off. So at the very least, even though we're starting wide receiver, definitely a good strategy in this underdog format where you got to start 3 every week, I don't think it's going to pay off. I don't think this is the way to go. So don't hate it, but it does set us up for maybe running back in the next round. There is some good value at the end of the third at running back for sure, but I might go tight end. Let's take a look at our next pick would be 36-37. So starting at that point, we're looking at guys like Deebo Samuel maybe falls, Amari Cooper might be available, but Etienne, Najee, Jahmyr Gibbs, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Watson, Justin Fields, Mike Williams, Joe Burrow, Jerry Jeudy, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. Those would be the guys I'm considering. And if there's a guy I'm like really not confident in, it'd probably be Christian Watson. I think I was actually really high on Christian Watson. I drafted him a ton before the draft took place, but following the draft, I really got concerned. They took so many receivers in that draft. They just kept hammering wide receiver, tight end, that it's really up in the air what the target share is going to look like for Christian Watson. I mean, Romeo Doubs was really injured when he was going off. He was also super touchdown dependent. Let's take a look at his game log as well. If it wasn't for the touchdowns, Christian Watson was brutal for fantasy purposes. Very few like elite games. There were 3 where he went over 100, but other than that, not a single game where he went over 50 yards. So if he doesn't find the end zone, then it was kind of trash. And it's not like he was catching a ton of volume, like only 2 games here with more than 4 receptions. There's a lot to be worried about with Christian Watson. And it's not just the quarterback situation. Obviously, Jordan Love is not as good as Aaron Rodgers. It's really up in the air when it comes to what that floor is going to be. But it's possible that Romeo Doubs is his favorite target. It's possible Jaden Reed eclipses him. Or it's just possible that even if he maintains that number 1 receiver role, the volume just really takes a hit overall, and it's not the same. Unfortunately, Christian Watson did get taken, so that's not a player available to us. But I have not been going with Mark Andrews at all, and I won't be taking him again. But, very, very interesting. If there's one running back I normally don't take here, it would be Travis Etienne. I kind of prefer Najee Harris and Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more, but I don't think he's going to bust. So we got to go with some risky picks. And I think DJ Moore, who used to be going in this range, has kind of fallen for sure, is a player I don't believe in. But another guy I really don't like at all in this range would be Drake London. I don't think Drake London is going to pay off. at all in the 4th round. So right now we started with 4 wide receivers, and there is an advantage to that strategy, but these are ones that I really don't think are going to pay off at all at this ADP. I wish I had like a middle round pick so that it wouldn't be like super egregious in some of these reaches, but these are picks I really would not endorse at all. Maybe I'm wrong about Drake London. Maybe Desmond Ridder's going to really pay off, but last year when Drake London was on the field with Desmond Ridder, Kyle Pitts was not on the field either. Kyle Pitts was injured at that time, and these last few games where Drake London was getting 10 plus targets, like 12 targets, 6 for 95, then 7 for 70, 7 for 96, 5 for 47, 6 for 120. That needs to happen in order for Drake London to be a 4th round pick and deserve that draft capital at the end of the season. In order for that to not bust, you need this type of volume to pay off. And if you've noticed, even though the floor is decent here, he didn't find the end zone a single time, and I don't think that's just going to randomly catapult into like double-digit touchdowns this season. Maybe you're a believer in the Falcons, but especially with Kyle Pitts coming back on the field, I don't see it happening. Definitely going to vulture some of this volume. And with Bijan Robinson drafted in the 1st round there, I think that's going to shift the focus even more heavily towards the run. At the moment, they still have Cordero Patterson. So I really don't think Drake London's going to pay off. Even if you took him at like right here, pick 45, which I believe is his ADP. Yeah, pick 47. I don't think that's going to pay off at all. I think, if anything, you'd rather get him in the 5th or 6th round. I do not have him ranked as a top 30 wide receiver. And right now we're still getting wide receiver 21 off the board in this range. So all these players I think are way overvalued at the spot that I've taken them by like a full round. Like especially DJ Moore and Drake London need to be taken at least a full round later. But we're at least going to have a lot of receivers with this team. Boy, do I hate it already. This is not a fun draft, honestly. It's like interesting, but I can't say I'm like excited about this. I'm mainly just giving you like advice on what not to do. These are the players I would not be taking if it were me. But this sucks. This really fucking sucks. The only thing that it might behoove us to go running back with our next pick, but I'm going to try and wait on quarterback a little bit more. I think taking them in like the 7th, 8th round is the big pitfall for who's available in that range and like the value you're getting. I don't think I think there's just a massive tier break once you pass Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence in round 5, that if you don't get one of those players, the only one who might be like worth it in like the 8th or 9th round might be Tua Tagovailoa if he stays healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, then he's not worth it. And I don't think any of those quarterbacks in that range, like until you hit round 10, 11, pick like 113, 114, I really think the guys you do want would be Rodgers, Geno, Jared Goff. And if you're willing to take a bet on it, especially as your backup quarterback, I think Russell Wilson represents that tier break. But all of these quarterbacks, with the exception of Trevor Lawrence, between Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones, I think carry a ton of risk. Once you get out of the top 100, it's a little bit less risky. But guys like Prescott, Anthony Richardson, Deshaun Watson to a certain extent, I think are really, really rough picks. There's no room for error at all. They can't fuck up in any way, shape, or form. If they do, you're really going to be disappointed. And that's why I've never taken any of these 3 quarterbacks at all so far up to this point. I'm not exposed to a single one, and we're going to take at least one of these guys with our 5th or 6th round pick. Wait, no, it'd be our 7th or 8th round pick. Excuse me. After this next turn, but we do need to address the running back position. And this is actually not a terrible place to do it, around 5 or 6. But in general, I just kind of hate this team already. But some guys I would be considering. I haven't taken Kyle Pitts a single time. I do not believe in Kyle Pitts at all. Similar to Drake London, very, very hard to believe in Desmond Ridder and that offense. Maybe you do, but I just don't. And we didn't even see him at all with Desmond Ridder as quarterback. But when it was Marcus Mariota, it was pretty brutal. And I'm really not excited about a guy like Kyle Pitts. So that's probably going to be our pick here. This is not a pick I would make at all, especially at the tight end position. You can usually get one of these top 4 guys, like at least Kittle, if not Hockenson, fall to you at the end of the 5th round. But I still prefer Dallas Goedert over Kyle Pitts. I just trust the floor so much more with Goddard. There's really like no bust potential. It's just a matter of if he gets injured or not. Kyle Pitts is a huge, huge red flag where you're just banking on the draft capital, the fact that he was drafted number 4 overall a couple years ago. But there's really nothing that he's like done in the NFL that makes you super, super confident that he's actually going to pay off as a top 5 fantasy tight end. That's where he's being drafted at number 5. I don't think it's going to pay off at all. And I'm really not excited about it in any way, shape, or form. But we can't ignore running back for too long. So if this guy doesn't take Dameon Pierce, then that's probably who we're going to go with. I can't say I'm like super confident in the Texans offense this season. And especially with Devin Singletary coming into the mix, not too excited about it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to grab Dameon Pierce as our RB1. Not a guy I trust as your first running back. And then we're also going to go with Kyle Pitts. Not a player I ever take at this point in the draft. We want Dak still in our queue. That's probably our next pick. But boy, this is rough. I have no confidence in this team whatsoever. It's possible that I'm wrong. It's possible that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But let me just remind you what Kyle Pitts has done in the NFL. Yes, he did go over 1,000 yards receiving in his first season, but he took a massive, massive dip in terms of yards per game from 60.4 as a rookie down to 35.6. His catch percentage was also 47.5%. Like, not 62% isn't something to brag about, but 47.5. Holy shit. Like, what the fuck went wrong there? I don't get it at all. But the most concerning part about Kyle Pitts is the fact that he's a liability in the red zone. 1 touchdown as a rookie. He doubled it as a sophomore, but 2 touchdowns isn't anything to be excited about. And boy, if he gets another injury, then it's just like brutal. I find it very hard to imagine like 7+ targets as a consistent metric for him. And even when he's getting it, like only 2 games with more than 3 catches. Kyle Pitts is a brutal, brutal fantasy pick. I see him as the most obvious bust of any tight end, and there's no way, shape, or form I'm going to endorse him over the course of the season. So I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off now, and yeah, I have a terrible taste in my mouth in terms of like who I'm getting here. Kyle Pitts is not a good pick at all, in my opinion. I'd much rather have George Kittle, and as I mentioned, I'd much rather have Dallas Goedert. Like, at least with Goddard, you have like legit production. How do you spell his name? It's Jesus. OED. There we go. Dallas Goedert has been pretty solid for like 5 years now in the NFL, especially when Zach Ertz left, but he's really come on, especially last year. Like, look at this game log before he got hurt. 3 for 60, 5 for 82, 3 for 26 and a touchdown, 5 for 72, 8 for 95, 2 for 22, 6 for 64, 8 for 100 and a touchdown, 3 for 23 and a touchdown, 3 for 67, 3 for 45, 6 for 46. The floor is so much safer. I don't understand at all why people trust Kyle Pitts over Dallas Goedert. I guess it's that draft capital. Maybe they're Falcons fans, but holy shit. The person who took him at pick 72 is getting a much, much safer player, much better fantasy pick than Kyle Pitts, who I took at 61. So this is not a good team. Unless I'm dead wrong. I have to be really wrong about these these views in order for this team to pay off. This is not what I would do in any way, shape, or form. But some players we're going to be considering with our next pick, definitely Dak Prescott. I'm not a believer in the Cowboys at all with Mike McCarthy. I just don't see it. I really can't imagine that's going to pay off. At the very least, this team is going to lean on the defense. It's going to be a very low-scoring offense that is going to play the run way more heavy this season. And I feel like Tony Pollard could easily get hurt. I'm not excited about him coming off that ankle and broken leg injury that he suffered in the playoffs. He has one of the shortest recovery timelines of any player, and some people are really dismissing it, but I'm legitimately worried about Tony Pollard staying healthy. I don't trust Malik Davis behind him. Deuce Vaughn is a very short rookie that offers no pass protection at that position, so I don't see him getting much playing time. And if Pollard goes down, it's going to be really rough. They have very few playmakers. Everyone's just going to double team CeeDee Lamb, and probably the rookie tight end Luke Schoonmaker is going to be one of their best weapons. I'm not a believer in Michael Gallup. I think he really fell off last year. And maybe another year removed from that ACL is going to pay off, but Brandon Cooks could suffer a concussion at any time and also go down. I don't feel confident about the Cowboys at all. So this is probably the direction I'm going to go in. Dak Prescott. A player I really, really would never take at this point in the draft. But as much as I should be taking running back, I'm probably not going to do that. The value is really solid at this point, especially for your like RB3. It's really good to take a player like this. But we might go with the stack here. We might go Brandon Cooks, Dak Prescott. I wouldn't hate it. But we really do need an RB2, and as much as this is like an anti-mock draft, I don't want to like butcher this team construction completely. So I'm going to go with James Conner. I'd prefer David Montgomery. I'd also prefer Javonte Williams here for sure. But we really need a second running back. And now that we have our quarterback, we've at least hit all of the starting positions on this roster. And now it's just taking who I think is like the biggest bust potential. I don't want to be like too egregious with some of these picks. Like I don't want to just go with a player that has an ADP like a full round later. I just don't think James Conner offers like the upside, the floor that you're getting. And I'm actually taking him exactly at ADP. So this is an ADP I think is a little bit too high. Not by like a ton, but maybe like 5 or 6 picks or so. James Conner probably going to get hurt. And with no DeAndre Hopkins, that offense is going to be even worse. So there's even less upside with James Conner. But Damian, let me just remind you of this offense. This team. At quarterback, we got Dak Prescott. At tight end, we have Kyle Pitts. At wide receiver, we're starting Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, and DJ Moore. We have Damian Pierce and James Conner at the RB1 and RB2. And then Drake London as the flex. This team sucks. These are picks I really would never make at all. So, kind of just throwing away money for this video. Maybe this is not the video you guys want to see, but I feel like it's worth bringing it up, getting the taste out of my mouth, and just remind like I never take these players, so I need to like actually know what it's like to have them. And yeah, I hate all these picks, but maybe this doesn't make for the most riveting fantasy video possible. But let's take a look at some of these other teams. Let's start with the pick 11. This guy right before us. He went AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Pittman, Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Mark Andrews, and Darren Waller. This is also a bit of an anti-strategy. I don't love it. Passing on running back this much is definitely risky, but definitely a big advantage at wide receiver for that team. This guy's got DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. It's interesting, but if Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't go down, can't imagine Montgomery offers as much touchdown potential as Jamal Williams did last season. But then we got Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel, DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Ayuk. This team has a lot of good receivers. This team has really benefited from my decisions. And then George Kittle at tight end. Yeah, I'm helping these guys out quite a bit. But Taylor, Barkley, Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, a little too heavy on running back, but not bad picks. Interesting strategy, though. Really don't like Christian Watson in round 3. I think that was a reach. Then Keenan Allen. I feel like he's going to get hurt. With Quentin Johnston there, I feel like he's not a player I'd like reach on a ton, but not terrible pick. Not a egregious spot to take him. But then Marquise Brown, Michael Thomas. I don't like this team at all. They have good running backs at the top, but they should have went a little more heavy on some other positions instead of taking Jones and Cam Akers. They really got to move off that position for the rest of the draft in order for that to work out. But this team, Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, Rashad White, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, Zay Flowers, Kelsey, really thin at receiver. That's a bit rough there. If you're going to go with Kelsey in round 1, I would not go Lamar Jackson. In round 3, it's a bit high for me. But this team has Burrow, Eckler, Mixon, Madison, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Rashad Bateman. Not bad. I don't hate this team. I think Metcalf is a bust in round 2. I wouldn't take him there. But if they go with Geno Smith, they have a good Seattle stack. That's not terrible. And then this guy has Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook. Terry McLaurin, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnston, Cortland Sutton. Little thin at running back. So these teams are interesting, but again, our team is nothing to be proud of. There's some bad teams in this league, honestly. I think one of my favorites might be this Josh Allen team. How did Jalen Waddle fall to pick 28? That's not fair. Damn. This guy got a fucking break taking Mahomes in round 2. Waddle in round 3. Damn, that's not fair at all. Okay, let's take a look at the draft board. Who are we looking at? I don't think Devin Achane is going to work out at all. I'm very concerned about that Miami backfield. I would never take him at this ADP. I think he's a massive bust. Really needs to fall in order for me to feel confident with him. But we're going to take him. And we might go quarterback here. I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. He's very boom bust. He has some games where he has like some really good rushing upside, but kind of few and far between. I don't trust Tyler Boyd here, but wide receiver is not what we need. No, I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid. I'm going to go with the rookie tight end that I do not think is worth this draft capital at all. If there's one guy you should not be taking in round 10, he has an ADP of pick 118. I would say it's Dalton Kincaid. I don't think Dawson Knox is going to disappear, and this is not a player I'd reach on at all. If anything, he needs to fall like 3-4 rounds in order for me to feel comfortable. I think Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid are the two most overvalued tight ends in the entire ADP. Hard for me to envision Kincaid even finishing top 12, but at best, I think he'd be like number 15. I think Michael Mayer is actually in a better position to succeed in Las Vegas as a rookie tight end. Just more targets going to head his way. There's a lot of competition in Buffalo. And as much as I like his talent, I just don't think it's going to work out as a rookie. So Kincaid, massive bust. Definitely not going to pay out. Devin Achane, not going to work out either. Maybe he has some elite upside. Maybe he can take to the house. But unless Mostert and Jeff Wilson get hurt, really can't see that happening. Devin Achane is not like a super big running back. He came in at like I want to say like 190 at the combine. 185. 5'9", 185. He needs to bulk up a little bit in order for him to handle a big workload. So that's a big reason to be concerned about Devin Achane. His speed is really the only thing that gives him an advantage. But he has been pretty successful in the last 2 years at Texas A&M. He ran for 7 yards per carry 2 years ago behind Isaiah Spiller, 9 touchdowns. He also caught 24 receptions for 261 yards and a touchdown. So decent pass catcher. And then last year as the RB1, only in 10 games, some pretty good usage, 196 carries. So that's almost 20 touches a game. So he was actually a pretty big workhorse for Texas A&M last year in the SEC. 5.6 yards per carry is pretty impressive. 8 touchdowns rushing, another 3 receiving. But what's most impressive about him is his pass catching ability. It kind of fell off in terms of efficiency, like only 5.4 yards per reception last year in college. That is not an impressive stat. It's really just the 36 catches that you're looking for. He'd be more of a volume guy than like an efficiency guy. So I don't think it's going to work out as a rookie, but his speed in that offense is definitely useful. It's possible I'm wrong. It's possible that Mike McDaniel really likes him, but I just can't see him paying off with a 9th round ADP in a heavy committee. They still pay Mostert and Jeff Wilson $3 million plus, and I just don't think it's going to work out for Achane as a rookie. So again, these are picks I do not endorse, but because we went so heavy on wide receiver early, we can't ignore the running back position. But we can probably ignore tight end for a long time. I don't think we need more than 2 with this game plan here. So again, I'm not trying to like go against like make terribly like obvious like bad picks. Like there's no point in just stacking up 8 wide receivers to start this draft and just completely ignoring all the other positions. I'm trying to like still stick with like some decent logic. Like you might be compelled to go with 4 straight wide receivers to start your draft. I just wouldn't be taking these 4. I really wouldn't. I think that's just a recipe for disaster. You might consider going with running back at the 5, 6, round 7. Those are the sweet spot, honestly. But going with Dameon Pierce is a bit of a liability. Going with James Conner, another liability. And then if you do go tight end at round 6, please, for the love of God, do not go with Kyle Pitts. Just busts. Nothing but buzz potential. But then I wouldn't take Dak Prescott in the 9th round even. I think only until he falls to round 10 would I consider it. But I still prefer guys like Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith. Even Russell Wilson, I think, could have a better season than him. I just trust the coach and the offensive play calling more. So please don't take Dak Prescott. If you disagree with me on Dallas, then do what you want to do. But if you're looking for my opinion, don't fucking do this. just don't fucking do this. And then Devin Achane, I could be wrong, but these 2 rookies not going to work out. Devin Achane and Dalton Kincaid really overvalued at the ADP. But another heavy overvalues at this position. I'm really worried about the New Orleans running back situation. I think Kendre Miller maybe could have like a big workload, but can't say I like really trust it. But we have been hitting the running back position a little bit more lately, so maybe we go wide receiver instead. There is the stack potential with Michael Gallup, but I think if there's any receiver on that offense that's not going to pay off, I think it would be Michael Gallup. I don't trust him at all, honestly. Players I would be taking here normally would be Elijah Mitchell, Jamal Williams, especially in the beginning of the season. Jamal Williams is going to have like 6 games where Alvin Kamara is suspended, so I like that quite a bit. But Michael Gallup, I think, is really not going to pay off. And if I am wrong about Dak Prescott, then this would correlate. So there it is. That's my pick. Can't say I really trust Rashawn Johnson, but the Green Bay receiver situation is so risky. Maybe I'm wrong about Romeo Doubs, but I think Jaden Reed, who I think is going a little bit later, is more valuable. I do not endorse Romeo Doubs at all this season. Maybe I'm wrong, But Christian Watson definitely going to have more touchdown upside. And then Jaden Reed, drafted in the second round, I think is going to be higher on the depth chart as well. It's possible that Doubs and his connection going back to last year with Jordan Love really works out, but I don't see it. I think this team is going to suck. They're going to heavily favor the run. And at this position, drafting your wide receiver 5 and 6 is probably a strategy you would employ, but I would not go with these two. I think Gallup and Doubs are going to bust. So I really, really fucking hate this team. Not excited at all with these picks. Damn, just brutal. Brutal. But please don't make these mistakes when you are drafting yourself. Some guys I would also not be taking in this range would be Jalen Hyatt. I think he's a big risk. That wide receiver room in the Giants offense is really hard to believe in. It's just so random, and then everyone always gets hurt. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Isaiah Hodgins was the best fantasy player of all the Giants wide receivers this year. So Hyatt has some speed, but I didn't love his college tape. His route running has a lot left to be desired, and not a firm believer in Jalen Hyatt. Doubt he falls to us. We still have another 14 picks until our next one, but that's not someone I would want to endorse in this range. I'm not excited about Kyler Murray. Obviously, he's going to be missing a significant portion of the season. And let's just take a look at the Arizona Cardinals' schedule. I think they gave him a late bye with this in mind. And then when they come back, they have some really tough games against San Francisco, Chicago. I guess that's not a really tough game. But then Philly in Week 17. If you do somehow make it to the championship, I can't imagine Kyler at Philadelphia is going to be a really, really good fantasy game. Even if he's healthy at the end of the season, these games against San Francisco, even Pittsburgh and the Rams, if he does come back late November, really don't see it working out. Like, there's some good matchups in the middle here, like against Cleveland, Atlanta, Houston. But the Cardinals offense is going to be absolute shit. And if you do get Kyler back in late November, he has a brutal schedule. The Rams, the Steelers, the 49ers, Chicago, Philly, Seattle. Rough sledding for Kyler Murray. I think he's an obvious bust at his ADP. But because he's going to be hurt, I feel like that's just so clear and obvious. I'm going to go with a guy who is, maybe a player you might consider, especially if you did draft Romeo Doubs. We were considering Christian Watson earlier. There's definitely an argument to be made for Jordan Love. It's possible that offense really works out. But I have no confidence in Jordan Love. I don't think it's going to work out for him. I think that weird contract that they gave him was a clear sign that they don't believe in him. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Instead, they gave him a 1-year, $20 million extension. And the fact that he signed on to it, that he didn't just test the open market, is a sign that he doesn't believe in himself either. If he really thought that he was, ready to compete at the quarterback position and demand a lot of money at that spot in the market, then he would bet on himself and he wouldn't have signed that low ball offer. So I don't think the Packers believe in him. I think he also knows he's not quite ready yet. And I think he is a massive liability to draft. So if he's available, I will take him, because I think that's a player you need to avoid. But if not, we're going to look at the running back spot. And boy, it's definitely rough at this point. But Mostert could be interesting. We already have Devin Achane, though. So maybe we go with like a guy that has more of a path to contribute. It's possible that Algier has a solid role, but I can't say I'm like really a believer in it. I feel like they're just going to give Bijan so many touches that it's not going to work out for him. At this point, it's hard to find like terrible, egregious picks at running back because everyone's a backup at this point. So not excited about it. But something that I don't think you should do should really do at all in this best ball format is handcuff your running back. Especially if you're in a tournament setting. If you're in one of those best ball tournaments where you're trying to turn like a $7 buy-in into like 60K, then there's no point in handcuffing because that only mitigates your risk. It raises your floor, but it lowers your ceiling. It's basically if you draft Devin Singletary with Dameon Pierce on your roster, then you're hoping that it's either a heavy committee and neither player ever really gets like 20 points, or you're expecting Dameon Pierce to get hurt. So that's not a really viable strategy for success. But yeah, this is a rough spot for sure. In that same vein, if you're handcuffing, I wouldn't be doing it with Raheem Mostert. I think he could definitely get hurt. I think Mostert's a big bust. So we'll take him. And then we might need a backup quarterback. But I'm going to be honest with you. If anyone offers like really good value and could be a big boom like league winner, it'd be Matthew Stafford. So as much as I want to take him, I'm not going to do it. I think MVS is a terrible pick here. Not excited about it at all. So that's who we're going to take. I do not endorse MVS. There's a lot of question marks with the Chiefs offense. Like, let's take a look at their roster and remind you like how little they actually pay. MVS. Oh shit, no, he's actually the highest paid guy. Oh boy, I sound kind of dumb with that. Wow, kind of shocking that they gave him a 3-year, $30 million deal. Wow, that's very, very shocking. He has the speed, I get it, but he didn't really produce much last year. And that is hard to believe, honestly. But they have a lot of options, and I can't really say with like a vehement position that like MVS is actually going to be that solid. Unless Tony goes down, unless some of these other guys get injured, then I don't feel too good about him contributing more than like 3 games in your roster. So not a pick I've been making at all. If anything, I target Sky Moore in the Chiefs offense. Occasionally I consider Kadarius Toney or Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is kind of interesting, but it's really just this Kelsey offense that you need to rely on. And then Jerick McKinnon, I think, is really the most valuable Chiefs flex position player that you could be taking. But yeah, MVS, I think, carries a lot of risk. It's so late, I guess it's mitigated, but not a pick I normally make. Not a guy I feel like super confident in, for sure. So let's just remind you of this roster. We have Dak as our starting quarterback. Not excited about that at all. Dameon Pierce, James Conner, Devin Achane, Raheem Mostert. Do not recommend the handcuff in the best ball setting, that's for sure. But Miami's an interesting team to do it with. I'm a little worried they get like Zeke or Fournette or Kareem Hunt going there in free agency. I don't think they're done, and that's definitely a landing spot I could envision, even mid-season. Like if let's say Fournette doesn't sign with a team and waits for an injury, if Mostert goes down and they don't fully believe in Achane, they might bring in Fournette as a good pass catcher. But yeah, I don't recommend the Miami handcuff situation at all. If anything, just go with one of them and hope for the best. But Davante Adams, with his quarterback situation very much up in the air, he's losing some value. Wouldn't take him in mid-early first round, that's for sure. But then Devontae Smith, I don't think is a safe second-round pick. We reached on him heavy in order to take him. DJ Moore, not worth a 3rd or 4th round pick. 5th round, I'd consider it, but really more of a late 5th rounder, mid 6th rounder, in my opinion. That's the sweet spot for him. And same goes for Drake London, in my opinion. I think 4th round is a terrible spot for the two of them. But Michael Gallup, not a player I'd like to take. Even with the stack correlation, not interested. Romeo Doubs, very worried about the Green Bay offense in general. Don't think he's going to pay off. MVS, not excited. And then Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid, the two most overvalued tight ends at that position. So this team sucks. Do not take it. But this is the only time I'm going to do this video. I'm not a fan of throwing my money away, and I think you get the point at this point. Like, you probably know what not to do, but at the very least, now you know the players I think are big busts. Not gonna work out at all, in my opinion. But later on, some guys we need to consider. Quarterback is a position we've really been avoiding, so we might consider Desmond Ridder. We have the Kyle Pitts, Drake London stack. That's definitely interesting. That's worth it. But Baker, also a player we might consider, had him in the thumbnail. It's possible that he puts up a 30 touchdown, 30 interception season like Jameis Winston did a few years ago. They are both first round picks after all, and Baker has a chip on his shoulder. There's going to be so much fucking garbage time in Tampa Bay. It's possible that he's actually way more valuable than this ADP would suggest, because he has good weapons. It's not like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans fell drastically in the ADP. You can get them 5th, 6th round, and it's not like terrible, but obviously he's not a guy you're like excited about it. Okay. This is a tough spot here. But a guy I don't trust would be Hunter Renfrow. That's a terrible fucking pick. Yeah, we're going to go Hunter Renfrow. And then just because I don't want to get sniped, there's been a heavy run on quarterback. I'm going to go Desmond Ridder, I think. This is a solid stack, honestly. Like, I see in the comment section, Mike, you're like, is it bad that I kind of like this team? It's possible that I'm like really wrong about these players. It's possible that all of these guys work out. But from where I drafted them, I don't think it's going to work out. Like, I reached on a lot of these guys. Like Dak, I took a little bit high. DJ Moore, I drastically reached on. Devontae Smith, I also took like 10 spots above ADP. I tried not to go with like obvious terrible picks. And from like a build standpoint, this isn't like egregious, but I can't feel confident with Devontae Smith literally at pick 13. At the beginning, it's hard to find like a bad player. So I don't like disagree with your standpoint that you like some of those picks, but DJ Moore, oh boy, that one is a massive bust, especially at the 3-4 turn. I can't see that working out. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see Justin Fields spreading the ball around enough to DJ Moore for it to work out. There's kind of too many weapons there, and it's just not enough of a pass-first offense. But Drake London, I think, definitely does have some upside. It's possible that he really does pay off. But at pick 37, there's no room for error. That's kind of the vibe of this team. It's like there is no room for error at all where I've drafted these players. So if they're even just a little bit worse than what this ADP would suggest, then this team is going to crater completely. But again, it's possible that like I'm just way wrong on these guys. However, from a build standpoint, I don't hate having 8 wide receivers this early. Like, there is a lot of depth at that position, that's for sure. I don't love the ceiling, but yeah, there are some aspects of this team that I don't like completely hate. I don't think you're super wrong. I mean, it's hard to like take terrible players, but if you are going to do this type of like approach, like this contrarian approach, basically I looked at my exposure before this draft and was trying to cross off players that I've heavily invested in. So at the very least, there's like also a level of strategy for gambling on underdog with this. Like, if you are completely off base with all of the players that you plan are going to really hit and that you take like a ton, like maybe you have like 50% of your drafted teams have like a certain player, it might be wise to do a draft where you go with players that you normally never consider in case you are dead wrong. Like, at the very least, I am kind of mitigating my own gambling risk, where it is that contrarian play, and it's possible that all of the guys that I like vehemently trust earlier just are not going to work out. But yeah, I can't say with certainty that this is like that this team has no chance, but it's not a team I'm confident in at all, for sure. So maybe we just disagree on some of these players, but let me know which guys you like specifically like. Yeah, I'm curious to see which picks you like really feel strongly in. But like Hunter Renfrow, for example, I don't feel good about that at all. That's not going to work out. We only have 2 picks left in this draft. We're at the end already, so kind of hard to like bet on really weird guys. Like there's no one that's a home run hit at this point. But we're probably gonna take our third quarterback. And because he's in the thumbnail, I'm gonna go Baker Mayfield. Normally I wouldn't. Normally I would never do this. Take Baker Mayfield. The more I think about it, though, there is like a lot of garbage time possibility. It's possible that Baker, not consistently, but maybe like 5 times during the season gives you like 15 plus points, and maybe you only need like 2 or 3 of those to really contribute into your lineup. It's possible that Baker actually does offer some value. I feel like Kyle Trask is going to get some starts at some point, though. There's no way they never give him a shot. But I do see the Buccaneers as the worst team in the NFL this season. I see them drafting first overall. But we only have 4 running backs with this team, so that's what we're going to do with our final pick. Damn, Fournette's falling a little bit. I don't understand why Fournette is so cheap. I've taken him a lot, honestly. Oh, CEH is a good opposite day pick. But yeah, this is rough. Okay, we're definitely gonna go Baker Mayfield. But running back I really don't want. Might be James Robinson. Like, I don't want to be too obvious with CEH, but there is a scenario where they really need CEH. It's possible that they don't cut him. It's possible that Jerick McKinnon gets hurt. At the beginning of last year, he had 6 touchdowns last year. There might be some usage for CEH. Fuck it. Let's go with CEH, but that's definitely not a player anyone's really excited about. That's definitely a risky pick. But in round 18, it's not egregious. There is a scenario where it does work out. But yeah, so here's our team. We have Dak Prescott, Desmond Ridder, Baker Mayfield. I don't hate it, actually. Like, it's not like the worst combo in the world. It's just all of my predictions for how these 3 teams are going to go need to be dead wrong. But we do have a legit stack with Desmond Ridder and Drake London, Kyle Pitts. That's actually not something that I hate. Our RB1, though, has no room for error. I'm worried that Devin Singletary is going to steal a lot of touchdowns from him, but Dameon Pierce could be top 15 again. That is possible. James Conner, if he stays healthy, could be seeing a ton of volume. Could actually work out, but as your RB2, I don't feel confident in that. We have the Devin Achane, Raheem Mostert combo. Kind of need one of them to get injured in order for the other to pay out, but these are the 2 pass catchers in Miami, and there is some PPR upside, but I'm worried that Jeff Wilson is going to be the goal line back. I do worry about that quite a bit. However, CEH really need Jerick McKinnon to get hurt in order for that to pay off. He's in a contract season, though. He has something to prove, and maybe he shocks the world, finally has a breakout season. But Devontae Adams, his quarterback situation is up in the air. Don't trust him in round 1. A little bit of a risk at that number 12 pick. But Devontae Smith at number 13, that's just too high. DJ Moore at number 36, also too high. Drake London, I'd much rather get him in round 5, but it could work out in round 4. The stack is kind of nice. We have Gallup also as a stack candidate with Dak Prescott, but Romeo Doubs, very, very hard situation to trust. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but MVS also not going to have like more than 5 viable games, most likely. Not a ton of volume for him. And then Hunter Renfrow, unless Adams gets traded, kind of hard to trust him. I feel like Jacoby Myers really ruins his value. But then Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid, I think, are going a little too high for ADP. I don't think that's going to work out. So that's my team. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But that's it for this draft. And don't think I'm going to do this for quite some time, but it's definitely an interesting exercise to take, and could be worse. That's for sure. But that's it for me. I'm signing off now. Have a good one. Actually, it's 4:25. Let's take a bong rip before we sign off. Just for what would it be? It's a good omen. Kind of my. I need both hands. Fuck. Kind of a tradition. Whenever I do a mock draft, I also take a bong rip. But I'll see you next time. My name is Adam Riancho.